Hello and welcome, friends. Today we are going to be taking a look at the absolute best equipment you can get for working on your farm. We're going to start the plows and we're going to work all our way up to making sure that your crop is weed free and ready to harvest. So let's swing around here. So I've spent a lot of time playing this game, and probably even as much, if not more time, going through on ModHub and figuring out what the best stuff is to do everything with. I've touched on tractors before. I'll make sure to link that video in the description just in case, because we're not going to really be looking at any of these tractors. These are all just to help highlight the equipment. Alright, so first up here we have the Lizard 6MT. Now, this does have two sizes. Let's pull it up real quick in the shop here. We are going to go to plows. There we go. And scroll all the way over to the end here with the mods. This is the Lizard 6MT or 9MT, the Lizard Subsoiler mod. So, it is configurable either to 6 or 9 meters. I just stuck with the small one for right now because it's going to work out a little bit easier for me right at the moment. Now you'll notice it does have a pretty high horsepower requirement, and I've got it on a pretty small tractor. So the nice thing with it though, other than the fact that it's actually straight, which means it's a lot easier to get very even, nice lines on your field, is you can actually hook up to it backwards, and it doesn't care what the horsepower is anymore. It will work backwards. You can even have an AI helper run this backwards and you can still plow a field. So we're going to hook up to it here. And we're going to go ahead and start making a small field real quick. So if we unfold it, lower it, and then we're going to hit Y to allow fields. And we're going to be able to cruise along just fine, even though I've got a tiny tractor. Now, we're only going, well, there we go. Now we're even picking up higher speed. It's got a working speed of about 6 miles an hour. And of course, now I said that after we just in the shop looking at it, and I don't remember. 6 to 9 miles an hour. But when you're going backwards, you can actually kind of fast farm and get a little bit higher than that. And it works way better than the base game plows because you've actually got a nice solid edge right there. And in no time, you're getting a field made up for yourself. Now, you can definitely get bigger than this one. That's going to be our next one over here after I just kind of finish off that little spot. Alright, that's our next setup over here. This is the Lizard SM72 and SM82 mod. Now, the neat thing with these, other than the fact that they're, again, a straight plow that is massive, like we have set up over here just as a demonstration for you, you can get a rear hitch on it. So if you stick a rear hitch on it that matches up to, say, a fertilizer spreader like this, that means in one step you can create your field and fertilize it, or plow your field and fertilize it, which is awesome. So let's take a look at this one in the shop real quick here. We're going to be back into plows again. So we've got the 72 and the 82 with massive widths, right? You're talking 22 meters and 26 meters. It does take some hefty horsepower, so keep that in mind. You will need a tractor that has a lot of horsepower. But we can go ahead and unfold this massive, massive plow. Let's set it to create fields and lower it. And I mean, look at that. You are not going to find any plow that you can do as quickly as you can with this one. I mean, we're just making a massive, massive field now. And this is way bigger, way faster, way easier to use than anything you will find in base game. I, at least to this point, have never seen a better plow. I will say that 6MT and 8MT, it does really come in close. That's why I had to show that one off too. Mainly because you can use that early game with a small tractor and you won't have a problem. This, you're going to need a little bit heftier of a tractor because you're talking almost 400 horsepower to run this. But I mean, within a few seconds, we've just created a really big sized field here. And look at how clean those edges are if we want a circular field. And it's the same sort of thing. If you want a straight field, all you got to do is make sure you drive straight and quit circling it like I am, just kind of for the hell of it. So that right there is the Lizard SM82. All right, so now that you've made your field and plowed, well, now you got stones all over the place. So we're going to have to go over stone pickers, right? And I've actually got a few different choices here. This first one is actually base game. If we go over to our stone pickers, if I can find it here, there we go. This is actually just that straight up Dagelman Rock King 9600. And the reason I'm including that is for the price. It does have a really good capacity, 3.8 meters. That's a decent amount. The upgraded one we're going to take a look at next is only 2.5. So don't count it out just because it's base game. It works really well. It does take longer, but you're not going to unload it as quickly as you'll unload this one. With the width that this has, it does actually really quickly fill up. We're going to do a real quick sweep around this field through some of it. I mean, if you're doing a large field, which is why you'd want the larger width and larger stone picker here like this, you fill this thing up pretty quickly. So if that's a little bit too slow for you, there's where this last one comes in. And this is probably the absolute best right now for stone picking. It is by far the largest and has by far the largest capacity. The other neat thing is this does also, or can also, be set up to run as a forage wagon, and it is the probably best forage wagon you can get for consoles right now. But I mean, look at this. This has an absolutely massive width, and the capacity is just incredible. Let's go back to our shop real quick, because I forgot to look at the last one in here for you too. So that last one we had is the Scorpion 710 stone picker mod, and that goes up to a 9.5 width and a 2.5 meter capacity, which is not a lot. Only 170 horsepower needed though. This one, it doesn't really have a horsepower requirement on it, but trust me, you're going to need a decent amount of power to haul this thing around, especially once it's fully loaded, because unreal capacity on it goes all the way up to 250,000 liters, 250,000 liters for the unreal capacity, and a 16 meter working width. Now I will say the working width is a little bit incorrect, because as you can see over here on the right hand side, we actually miss a little bit of the field. So I really hope at some point that will get fixed with this mod, because that's been an issue since the day it came out. But it still lets you clear any field in almost no time at all. I mean, you're going at 16 miles an hour and you've got a 16 meter width. And it's pretty rare that you can fill up this trailer on a field and have to go unload it and keep going. Because if you do that unreal capacity, that 250,000 liters, you get a lot of stones in that trailer back there. And there you go. We did this whole field basically, and we're only at 500 liters and 1%. So I will say any of those would have worked, but if we had an actual sized field, I mean, this is the best capacity you can find in a stone picker. So let's take a look at seeders. Now, if you don't know, there are two different types of seeders and planters. You have standard and direct drill. Direct drill means that you can go ahead and plant it without having to do any sort of cultivation or anything to begin with. And that is always the best way to do it. It saves you time, it saves you a step. So right here, we've got my favorite small seeder in the game, hands down. It does come in either the case or the John Deere variant. And let's take a look at it in the shop here. So this is the Case IH 5100 and there's the John Deere 8350. They're the exact same. It's just whether it comes in Case or John Deere. The great things about this, you've got a 5.2 meter width, which is pretty good, especially for only being at $6,000. If we compare that to a base game one, $33,000 for 3 meters. So you're definitely getting your value out of here. It's also direct drill, so we don't have to do any sort of cultivation before we plant. So after your first harvest, if you made the field, or after you harvested after you bought the field, you don't have to worry about cultivating it in between. You can just plant. It also has fertilizer as well as seed. So I don't have anything in this one right now, but it will fertilize while you seed it. And you can use any size tractor you want on it. The other neat thing with them, if I pull this forwards a little bit, if you hold your left bumper, you see how we're extending that out? That's actually there so that you can attach another seeder and run multiple on the same setup. So you can triple your working with one on each side and get way more planted at a time with just a $6,000 investment per seeder. All right, so the next one we're going to take a look at here is a Great Plains. We're going to pull up the shop. It's actually a planter. So this is the Great Plains YP2425A. And it can be set up either on a 3-point or a trailer. The really nice thing with this, besides the fact that it's 58,000 liter capacity and 18.2 meters, is look at the crop types there. You can plant way more than a planter. You can plant pretty much any crop type in game with just this one machine for 142,000. Comparing it to the other ones of the same size or similar size, on planters, it's already cheaper, and you're talking you only need one planter as opposed to a planter and a seeder. So keep that in mind. It is a really good option. All right, next one here we're going to take a look at. This is another planter. This is the DB 120 48 row 30 inch. So it will only do planting crops. So you're talking corn, sunflower, soybean, sugar beet, and cotton. But you're going up to a whopping 36.5 meters. And what I actually did is I have this paired up with another mod. So if we look at our seeders here and scroll over, that's the C850 air cart. And that will actually still work with this. So this is a fairly low capacity on it as a planter. You've only got 3,500 liters worth of seed. So it goes pretty quick. That air cart helps a lot, and it does work with it. Last but not least on our seeders here, we have the big boy. And just so that I can show you why I say it's the big boy, I'm going to pull it forward and unfold it. I know, right now it doesn't look that big, but just wait. This thing is massive. This is the Bourgault 3420 100 Paralink hoe drill. It's a 30 meter seeder, and that cart holds 45,000 liters. You do need both together, and it does take a whopping 600 horsepower, but this will get your field planted in no time flat. All right, I've got a worker planting this field real fast for us, and you might wonder how to fill this thing up easily and quickly, because it is a lot of seed and fertilizer. So I've got my neat little trick right over this way for you. This will work with any tractor, because you also don't even need the front loader. So this is set up so that I've got the back lifter a front loader just from the tractor, and the global goods transport pallet. If you fill one of those up on each side and attach them just directly to your front loader and back lifter, or for that matter, if you do a back lifter on the front and the back, you can carry around 200,000 liters of both seed and fertilizer and just head right out to your field and dump it into your seeder or fertilizer spreader or whatever else you're using. It comes in super handy, and if you've got it on a crazy fast tractor like this, that means you can have it way off out of the way of your planter as it's going through, or your seeder, and you can just buzz right over to it to refill once it runs out. Because, I mean, you're really cranking around. And you really don't tip or flip or anything like that with these, because they keep a carry capacity down to 100 or 200 kilograms, something like that. You can pick them up and carry them around by hand. So you really don't need to worry about flipping your tractor or having anything really weird happen because of the weight. All right, now that we've got that being seeded, we're going to need to roll that field. So right here are your two best options for small fields and for larger fields. We've got the Bourgault multi-rollers. So if we go down to rollers in our shop, there we go. We've got both of them right here. We've got the Bourgault PowerRoll multi-roller, and we've got the Lizard MegaRoll multi-roller. Both of these work the same way. You can switch between which type of roller you want. So a field roller for rolling in your field after you've planted it, a grass roller in between your harvests if you're doing grass, and a mulching roller, so that after you harvest, you can go through and mulch and get that bonus off of mulching. So I'm gonna leave our small one here, and we're gonna grab the bigger one because we can, so why not? We're grabbing this bigger one, and again, this is one where it really doesn't look much or look like much when you have it folded, but once you unroll it here, it is massive. So we're going to put this down, and we're just going to really quickly get over this field. All right, now that we've got that field planted and rolled, what about spreaders? I've got a couple different options for you here. So let's pop to the shop here and look at all three of them real quick. Now, these are, again, all going to be mods. Right here that I'm hooked up to now, we have the Lizard 6-ton Fertilizer Spreader. Now, really, this is the only one you actually need. I mean, 25,000 liter capacity, and it goes up to a 24 meter width. And for the price, you cannot beat it. $37,000, and you're never going to need another spreader in this game. This one, hands down, by far, is the best spreader out of them. But I got two more options here for you, and there's reasons why. These are both self-propelled. Now, the really cool thing with the John Deere here, if I can get into it. Oh, that's the Jacto. The really cool thing with the John Deere is it's not just a fertilizer spreader. This will do fertilizer and lime, but that back half detaches, and as you can see just behind us there, you can also use it as a sprayer. So for the price, it is amazing. If we go over to our crop protection here, the price for just the self-propelled sprayer, the John Deere 4940, is $195,000. And then you're only talking another $48,000 for the dry box. And it has a 19,000 liter capacity. So this thing is awesome. The only problem you can tend to run into, which is why we went for the dual wheels on this, is it can get to be really tippy. So when you do hit both bumpers, you can spread your wheels out, and it'll help with that a lot. It makes it really stable to drive. But if you're running single narrows, even with the double narrows there, yeah, it can be really easy to flip without really trying to flip it. So just keep that in mind with this mod, because it is one of the handiest things you can get, being that it'll do both fertilizer, lime, and liquid spraying. So next here is the Jacto. And part of the reason I like it is, unlike the John Deere, this one isn't tippy. I mean, it is a little bit slower, but we aren't tipping in the least. And same thing, we can extend our wheels on this one as well, but it's not really necessary on this one. So let's take a look at this one real quick. This is the Jacto 5030 NPK. It's got a 50-meter spreading width and a 5,000-liter capacity. Now, I really wish it had a higher capacity, but that 50-meter spread makes this thing awesome. And if you've got one of those front and back loaders set up around, or for that matter, just a front loader running with it, I mean, check this out. This is a huge spread width. I mean, you really cannot beat that width. It is just humongous. So keep in mind the Jacto, the John Deere, and that 6-ton spreader when you're going through ModHub. All right, now let's take a look at sprayers. Now, the thing to keep in mind, base game is actually decent for the sprayers. So right here, I've got one of the base game sprayers. This is the Hardy Eon 5200 Delta Force. Now, the only thing really with the base game sprayers is they do kind of have a smaller capacity, but they're decent. I mean, it's got a good size working with, and there's nothing wrong with them. Sprayers also aren't the type of thing where you use so much fertilizer or herbicide that you really need a massive capacity. I mean, it works well. But again, if we move over to the John Deere that I talked about before, we are going to get some big benefits. Again, remember, this gets tippy, so you do have to be careful with that. But we've got some nice big boom arms, 36.6 meters versus 33 on the base game one, so a little bit wider, and we've got a 19-mile-an-hour working speed. Now, I didn't bother putting anything into it right now because our crop doesn't have any weeds since we just plowed it, so it won't generate any weeds this time around. But look at the width of that. I mean, it would take one sweep around this field to finish this field. And I know we didn't make a huge field over here, but still, this is a massive working span. And if we're talking 19 miles an hour, let's set our cruise control here to 19 miles an hour. You're going to be working at this speed going through the field. This thing works great. So if you've been having some trouble figuring out exactly what equipment you needed to use, wanted to get mod-wise from ModHub, I hope this helped. If it did, let me know. If you watched it this far, let me know. Drop me an emoji or a thumbs up down in the comments. I would really appreciate it. My goal is to help everyone else have more fun with this game, because I'll tell you, I've put a lot of hours into this game. I've put a lot of hours into looking for the right equipment to use and the biggest equipment. And to be honest with you, I haven't really seen one massive compilation of this is what you need. That's why I wanted to make this video. So thank you for watching, everyone. Make sure you give me a like, comment, and subscribe if you can. It really does help me out. It really keeps me motivated to keep making videos. Thank you all. Have a great day. Happy gaming. Now, I know this was planted really poorly, but we're not going to worry about it. This is more just to, or this video is to try and highlight all of this equipment and help you. Wow, that didn't work. All right, that'll have to get cut.